Be it resolved, the governing board adjourns the executive session and returns to the regular board meeting.
Need a second on that?
I do.
Second.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Okay, 4.1. Call for and recess to an executive session pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.03.a.7 for the purpose of discussion or consultation with designated representatives of the public body and/or legal counsel in order to consider its position and instruct its representatives regarding negotiations for the purchase, sale, or lease of real estate
We take the clock down.
property.
Second motion.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Okay,
Back same place.
back. Be it resolved, the governing board adjourns the executive session and returns to the regular board meeting.
Second the motion.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes?
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
On to 5.1, the annual bond and override program update, and I understand that Deputy Superintendent Huffman will be presenting.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and the community. At this time, I'd like to call up our Executive
Thank
Director
you.
for Support Services, Mike Shepard, and our Executive Director of Finance, Quay Bolton-Latari, to present on our current bond and override.
Good evening, President Landis, members of the board, Superintendent Islas, and Agua Fria District community. So each year, we are required by statute to give a public meeting and present between September and October 31st the update of the programs that are financed through our overrides and through our bonds. The last override was passed in November of 2017 for a 15% override of M&O. And during last year, that provided an additional $7.9 million in programs to programs that were supported by these funds. These the funds and the programs that are listed here also include approximately $1.7 million of those funds that were geared towards the teacher salary increase. We had two bonds actually that we were working through as far as expenditures last year. The first one was passed in November of 2015 and the amount was $70 million. We have a requirement that those expenditures and those funds are required to be completed and finished within a 6-year period. So that shows here where we've completed those projects, we've completed the expenses in those projects and for this bond, showing a bond balance that will go into this coming year of 0. The next one was passed in November of 2019, and that was for a $55 million bond. So it shows the amounts that were put into each category, and in this one we have non-administrative as well as administrative costs that were approved for that. And we show here the total expenditures that were completed in 2021, which brings a bond balance in total that will carry forward for these particular projects of about $47 million. And Mike Shepard will present and talk about the different specifics that were covered in those.
Thank you, Quay. Good evening, President Landis, board members, Superintendent Islas, and the Agua Fria community. So while the data Quay shared is a statutory requirement that we update the board, we like to take just an opportunity to sort of try to illustrate what a lot of those numbers mean by just sharing a few photos. A lot of these will be very familiar. They've come in front of the board, even the recent past. But the first bond that we were looking at was that 2015 bond. In last fiscal year, we spent down the end of that. But you might remember the main highlight of that 2015 bond was the construction and opening of Canyon View High School. Along with that, we were able to accomplish some other things, a lot of deferred maintenance type items around the district, some renovations, some of those things. I've got a picture here of some of that work that was done in the last year, and some additional buses also that were purchased out of that. So the 2015 bond is largely wrapped and behind us now. So looking at the 2019 bond and what we spent last fiscal year, again, these projects will likely be familiar, but starting at Agua Fria High School, we've talked and spent time with the board on the renovations, the phase 2 renovations, 3 brand new classroom buildings, that if you get a chance to stop by Agua Fria, that the progress out there is very visible. It's very exciting out there. 24 new classrooms that'll be added, and a lot of innovative outdoor learning spaces that we'll have for that campus. So, I think I had a slide on this. I apologize. I wanted to just quickly touch on the Millennium High School. Several board members joined us at the beam signing ceremony. That project is well underway. We're looking at opening that facility in the spring of this year, of this school year, the spring of 22. Very exciting when we have a chance to cut the ribbon and get everybody out there and celebrate that. I apologize that got left off of this slide. Moving over to some of our other schools, Verrado High School, there are some funds to support some projects out at that campus. Largely they focus on campus safety and security, securing some areas on that campus. We're currently working in this current year on some perimeter fencing and some things that school could definitely benefit from a safety and security standpoint. Also, there's some pictures here. What you'll see at the top is a science classroom last year before some work was done. We have a handful of science labs out there at Verrado that have classrooms adjacent to them that if they only had some minor renovations and adding some sinks, some storage area, we could extend that lab functionality into some of those classrooms. So we're able to renovate 8 of those science classrooms last year. Those are available for students and we're using them this year. Over to Canyon View, newly opened school, obviously from the 2015 bond. There are very modest amount of support from the 2019 bond, but some areas that we're able, again with campus safety and security, adding some gates to kind of control visitor access, vehicle access onto the property. We did some acoustical improvements to help with sound in a lot of our classrooms, and then some minor landscaping that was not a part of the original opening of that school.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
The science renovation you did at Verrado, you said you were able to do 8. How many were there that needed to be done?
So these are what they were maybe a more standard classroom that was adjacent to a science lab. There were 8 of these classrooms, and they looked like many classrooms at Verrado, but we were able to go in and add the ability for them to do some wet lab type things in there. So there were 8 total classrooms that we worked in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And then moving ahead to some projects I know we've shared with the board, but what was accomplished in last fiscal year, which is what we're sort of reporting out, was largely a lot of the design and some of the planning for these projects. So these are at the moment on the board. Desert Edge, looking at a student services building to enhance that campus. And then the transportation warehouse facility, a new facilities to support our transportation operations in our warehouse. There's another presentation upcoming where we'll spend a little bit more time going into some details around that. So those are the projects that I just wanted to highlight out of the bond, both the 2015 bond and then the 2019 bond. Again, we'll share this out each year with you and more frequent updates in between then to keep the board aware and the community of the exciting projects within the district. And if there are any questions on the bond, the finances, or any of the projects, I'd be happy to address those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you for the update.
We are on to 5.2 and Deputy Superintendent Huffman.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Eastlis, and our community. I'd like to call Executive Director of Support Services, Mike Shepard, back up, who's going to give us a little deeper information on our new transportation and warehouse facility that is in the works.
Thank you. President Landis, thanks again. I did want to spend a moment. I think it's a timely update for the board. There are a couple agenda items, action items on tonight's agenda related to this. So I think for the benefit of the board and the community, just sharing a little bit of detail of what we have planned for our transportation and warehouse facility. I just wanted to start by kind of orienting the board with what our current facility exists of. So right now, our transportation and warehouse facility, this is a aerial view of the Agua Fria High School campus, and you'll find kind of outlined, highlighted in the northwest corner, there's about 4.5 acres on that campus site that is used for the transportation and warehouse. And that has been, that is how we've operated that since this district had one high school. So through much of the history of this district, our transportation department has done a wonderful job supporting our students out of this facility. However, as a district, as a community, we're certainly growing, and in the last 32 years since that current maintenance facility has been there, a lot has changed, not only in the Southwest Valley, but certainly within our district. So we definitely have challenges, the age and the condition of the building, but also just the growth in our fleet of buses as we transport students and as we try to serve other areas of our community. It's been a challenge. I did want to share just a quick timeline. This project has been in front of the board in the past, and understanding that the board has changed makeup slightly through this duration, and the recent board, I believe, has got maybe their first update in an executive session as we've been looking at land and some of those things. But I just wanted to highlight that this is a process that started back with us doing a bond exploratory process to try to see what would a potential bond, which ultimately turned into that 2019 bond, what projects are a priority for the district, and presenting some of that to the board through selling the bonds, selecting a team to put this project together, and again, the purchase of the land that the board has been involved with in multiple executive sessions, most recently I think back in June. But so where we're at with it is the board was presented a few different options of where we would build this new facility. I think we looked at something like 10 candidate properties, and really we landed on one that I think we felt really suited the needs. It's over 8.5 acres, centrally located within the district, and really with great access to both the 303 and the I-10, really in the central part of our district. So the ability for us to service all corners of our district from this location is really what attracted us to that. The facility itself that we will be building there, it's 17,500 plus square feet. It's going to serve as our bus vehicle maintenance service area. Our district warehouse will be there, and then staff offices for the transportation department obviously there as well. It is being designed and planned for not just our current needs that we, I think, have outgrown in our existing facility, but also planned for the future growth of the district. Currently, our bus fleet sits today at 49 buses. And I think looking ahead to a potential next high school, looking out 5 years, our transportation director felt like in the next 5 years, it is very realistic that fleet would grow to 70 buses. When we open this facility, it will be situated and ready from day one to accommodate 99 buses. So it not only is going to serve our current needs, our near future needs, but set us up very well into the future. I'm going to jump ahead. I added a slide. I understand that this is almost impossible to make anything out of, but this is a floor plan of that actual facility. And a couple things I just wanted to point out and highlight is that in a lot of districts, even in our current facility, some of these buildings are separate, standalone. Working with our transportation team, with our director out there, it was very important that these buildings all be co-located together. That there's all of these departments, all of these staff benefit from this close proximity. They're always working together, collaborating, supporting, covering different functions and things. So An original design kind of had a warehouse over here and a bus maintenance area over here, but we were able to pull this together into, it's really one structure. And I'll do my very best to kind of highlight what you're looking at. Down here in the bottom on the left, that's our new district warehouse. It is not quite double, but I would say 1 3/4 size of our existing warehouse facility. If I jump ahead, this whole area, this large area, is all our bus maintenance service area. It is twice as large as what they have now, with incredible areas for parts storage and all the support that we really are missing, quite honestly, in the existing facility that we've long outgrown. So there's space to service, multiple buses at the same time, and really, again, set us up for growth. Both of those areas have the ability, if needed in the future, to be scaled or added onto. And then finally, down in this lower corner, that's where you're going to find a lot of some of the office spaces for the staff, some meeting spaces for that department. And then I just want to point out an opportunity right here, this large area, and a couple restrooms there. That really serves as that a meeting space for drivers, but also a break, a lounge space. Quite honestly, our bus drivers work extremely hard running routes early in the morning. They come back. For them to have a comfortable place in between these routes to decompress, connect, stay connected, but we're really intentionally spending, it's a focus of ours to really highlight that area, create a very comfortable, welcoming space that really honors our drivers and the service that they do. So this is my last slide, and I just wanted to kind of look at where this project moves forward from here. Tonight on the agenda, there's 2 items. Item 8.1, that is completing that land purchase. Again, the board has been shared the details of some of those in executive session. This is really tonight executing what's been discussed there and taking that final step on that purchase. The second item, 8.2, the board will be considering the actual contract with our selected contractor, which for this project is Chase Building Team. With the board's approval tonight, we will have a price fixed for a scope of work that includes what was shared with you earlier. And then moving forward, we plan to break ground in January of 2022. Again, I'm sure we will put together a chance to celebrate that milestone and invite the board out to, and looking ahead for a project completion in the month of September of 2022, and then looking ahead at an opportunity during that fall break to really transition that department and using that as a time where coming back from fall break, all of those routes will be adjusted and run from the new facility. So that's kind of an update on that project, and hopefully a little bit of information as the board considers a couple agenda items later. I'm happy to answer any questions now or at the agenda items, but that's what I have to share with the board this evening.
Mike, do you anticipate any delays due to current issues with construction?
So that's a fantastic question, President Landis, and yes, and those are accounted for in this timeline. So initially, we had a target. We would have loved to open next school year with the department running out of there, but we're finding in the current climate, procurement and the availability of materials, specifically steel bar joists, have just an extraordinary lead time to them. We're also finding that, and this is in the city of Goodyear, but we're finding in most municipalities, just the growth in the area, a lot of the permitting process and some of the involvement there is taking, we're experiencing some other delays. So we've added time into the project to account for some of those. So what you're seeing, I think, is probably a conservative still. I mean, I'd love to see that, but it's, I think, a realistic for the board timeline of accounting for some of those delays.
Thanks. Any questions?
No, thank you for
Thank
the
you.
update.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, on to 6.1, request to address the governing board pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01H. This agenda item provides an open call to the public, allowing individuals an opportunity to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the governing board. Members of the public wishing to address the governing board are required to complete a public participation form and submit the completed form to the superintendent prior to the meeting. Individuals recognized by the board president must state his or her name. Speakers may comment on any item on the agenda or topics not listed on the agenda. No personal attacks on the governing board, staff, or other community members will be allowed. Individual comment will be limited to no more than 3 minutes each, and no more than 30 minutes will be devoted to the public comment portion of the agenda. Governing board members are not permitted to take action of any matter that is not on the agenda. So I'm going to call up Samantha Hamblin at this point, and thank you for being so patient. You've waited through 2 executive sessions.
You snuck that in on me. Okay, so good evening. My name is Samantha Hamblin, and I'm a parent of a senior at Canyon View High School. I wanted to take a moment this evening to recognize Mr. Philip Nallen before he leaves as principal for Canyon View. Mr. Nallen, I wanted to thank you for your positive impact you've had at Canyon View High School. I am a proud Canyon View parent who not only walked for continued equality to pass the bond that built the school, but I was also one of the first parents to submit a variance for my son to attend Canyon View High School after hearing Mr. Nallen speak so passionately about what he envisioned the next 4 years to be at school. On behalf of our Canyon View Roar Booster Club, I present to you this little piece of Canyon View, and I have enjoyed watching the school grow and work with you and help support your students and staff as president of your Booster Club. Thank you for your passion to your students at Canyon View and the class of 2022.
You know, he's been crying for 2 weeks.
Thanks for taking the time to come.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. 7.1, this is the consideration to approve the minutes of the September 8th board meeting.
Second motion.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
8.1, we are on to discussion and possible approval of the amendment to purchase and sale agreement of the transportation facility. The board may vote to go into executive session. Does anybody have any questions at this point before I make the motion?
No
Okay,
questions.
I move to approve Sixth Amendment to purchase agreement subject to district administration having the authority and discretion to adjust the outside completion dates of off-site improvements and amount of the holdback so long as the holdback amount is not less than a bid for the off-site improvements.
I'll second that motion.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Okay. 8.2, consideration of the approval guaranteed maximum price GMP contract for transportation warehouse facility bond project.
I'll second the motion.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
8.3, be it resolved, the governing board approves the fiscal year 2021 annual financial report as presented.
Hadn't been presented.
Are we presenting? Sorry, we were rolling on the motion, so.
Thank you. I hesitated for just a second. Thank you, President Landis, members of the board, Superintendent Eastless, and our community. At this time, we'd like to call back up our Executive Director of Finance, Bolton Latari, who's going to briefly share some information on our annual financial report.
We all read ahead so well, we were ready for it, Clay, so.
Good evening again, President Landis, members of the board, Superintendent Eastless, and our Agua Fria district community. So we're going to talk a little bit about our annual financial report as we end the year for fiscal year 2021. And we do this in order to show our transparency, accountability, compliance, which will serve as where and how we actually use a lot of our public funds. Statute requires us to bring it to the board for approval prior to October 15th. And then we're required by November 15th to publish it, to make it public. We will be doing that on our district website. So this breaks down a little bit of the revenues that we received and the percentages for 2021. And you'll notice there on the, be the left where you have the 2020 revenues to compare it to as far as any of the percentages. The reason that the federal had gone up so much was because we did actually get the equalization stabilization, and we also received the ESSER 1 during last year. So that was approximately about $2 million for that. So kind of as a piece of the pie, it pushed some of these other percentages in other directions. It looks like our state was funded a little bit less, when in actuality we got an additional 1.2 million from what we got in the prior year. And this takes a look at what our expenditures were as far as our functionality for instruction. Again, we show that it's in excess of the 50%. Our student support services, we actually had an increase this year up to 18%, and this was due to us providing some of the actual contractual help that we provided to some of our students so that their needs for education were met during our COVID era. And of course, then that also pushed down some of the admin is down a little bit, I believe, from 9% from the prior year. And food service, of course, was down a little bit since they're not serving full meals in the schools, although they were doing the Bluebird Eats. And transportation remained about the same. So as far as any of our next steps, again, the AFR will be uploaded to the Department of Education upon your approval, and we have to submit it to the county school superintendent by October 15th. We will be publishing the annual financial report on our website. And then this financial data will become part of our district's comprehensive annual financial report, which I will probably be bringing back to you in probably maybe January to go through and look at. We will be having a budget revision in December so that we're able to capture the growth of our students. And then we possibly may have another one in May to adjust our original adopted budget.
And at that update in December, we will also, at that time, be sharing with you more about our current year's spending and where this year's funds are being spent.
Thank you, Tom. So do we have any questions?
I just have one question.
Thank you, Ms.
On
Hill.
the overhead that you showed percentages, expenditure comparisons, expenditures, instructions. Of what amount? It says 56 point, I think that says 3.1. Of what amount? What's the overall amount that these percentages relates to?
These are of overall expense of all of our funds that we receive. Mm-hmm. This is the amount that went in total to instruction.
What's that amount?
I believe our M&O was probably about 63 million. Mm-hmm. We got about 5.5 million in federal funding. Mm-hmm. State was approximately, I want to say another 8 million.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions?
I just have one comment question. Thank you for this. This is really good information. Could we have like numbers, dollar numbers maybe next time in the presentation for comparison so we
Sure.
could have a better idea? I know they're on your sheets and I'm looking at them, but I don't understand the sheets as well as you do, so it would just some simple charts.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My eyes starting to go blurry.
Okay, well, I already made the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Back to that. DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Okay, 8.4. This is regarding the Arizona School Board HASBA bylaw change proposal consideration. Is there any discussion around this? Okay, be it resolved, the governing board gives direction to, where are we?
Is it Maxine or Karen?
To me.
Oh, to
To
Karen.
Karen.
I can enter your vote. I need your voting in the positive.
Mhm.
Okay.
To vote in the positive for this.
I'll second the motion then.
Thank you.
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, no.
Acton, yes.
Okay, for the consent agenda. Would the district like an opportunity to provide some information on item 9.12?
Thank you. Yes, we'd be happy to do that. At this time, I'd like to call up our Director of, sorry, I didn't see, Director of Human Resources, Noemi Cabrales, who's going to share just a little bit of information on that item.
Good evening, President Landis, members of the board, Superintendent Islas, and community. Regarding that specific here, so what you'll see there is a pretty competitive compensation plan for our classified staff that is being presented to you this evening. It's a two-part package with the purpose to first and foremost retain our classified staff that are essential to student support and the daily operations of our district. Second part is to attract new talent and also support our current staff. So what is on the proposal there is revising our classified compensation guides. There's three guides in there. And that's based on research from comparing neighboring districts. And while this is done on an annual basis, this is probably the first time it's been so aggressive, as you will see today, but that's due to really the response of the climate that we're in, environment. And what you'll see I want to highlight on there that you'll see that our new minimum is $15 and it was $12.96. So you're going to see quite an increase from $12.96 to $15. Another highlight that I want to make there is for our bus drivers. We have a high need for bus drivers, and so you'll see that the minimum for them we're presenting today is to increase to $20.01, and that actually would make it one of the highest in the valley. So and those are just highlights, but every single grade would increase. And so by increasing our classified guide, how does that affect our current classified? So that definitely attracts, but how do we retain? So by increasing the grades to our classified staff, that's actually going to bring their minimum salary up, and what is being presented is that they will receive a minimum of 4% increase. I did provide in there some examples of how it would affect certain employees. I have 3 different examples. So if you are above the new grade that is being presented, then you will get a minimum of 4%. If you're below that grade, then you're going to be brought up to that new grade, and that could be up to 17%, depending on what your current rate is. And then there's also a second part to that classified raise, and that's the gap. Because of the grade raise, we definitely want to take into consideration some gap pay. So if you've been in the district, or I'm sorry, not in the district so much as in your current position for more than 3 years, then we will ensure that you receive gap pay on top of the 4% minimum. So the reason why we're presenting to you this, obviously this would not be possible if it didn't have strong support from Mr. Islas, as well as having worked with administration like Mr. Hussman and Ms. Bolton-Latari. And we're ensuring that we recommend this because we're able to, and it's able to be sustained in the coming years. So it is definitely sustainable.
The other thing I wanted to draw to is that the majority of our classified staff actually live in our community. They're part of our community. So the positive impact to our staff really stems into our community and in many ways. So that's why we're pretty excited to bring this forward to you as a governing board in hope of support. Sorry, that was really long-winded.
That's all right.
But I
Thank
feel
you.
passionate
Very
about
thorough.
it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Cabrales?
I do. About how many classified employees do we have?
300, currently right now, our filled positions, 396, I believe.
Any idea? Because you said filled, how many
Filled.
vacancies?
Unfilled, we probably have about 25 unfilled, so a little bit over 400 classified staff. And this is hourly and exempt. So anything from food service, bus drivers, let's see what else, our coordinators that are exempt, so it includes both hourly and exempt salary employees.
Yes.
Do you have an idea, just when you mentioned the bus drivers, how many open positions we have? Because I know that's been an issue all around the valley.
So for bus drivers, we have about 10 vacancies.
Out of?
Ooh, I did not get a full count for bus drivers. I don't have the number.
Okay.
But the only way that we're actually keeping afloat with being able to provide those daily routes is because everyone is pitching in. So we have, say, our dispatcher that tends to be more in the office or in the building, now they're driving as well. So they're filling that vacancy.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm glad you're being proactive, especially
Okay.
with the bus drivers. All of this has been hard, and thank you for supporting the community and the support that you have from the superintendent bringing this forward. These are difficult times, and we appreciate, and I'm sure they do too, an
Yes.
increase in pay.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
The consent agenda should have been separate excluding this, but.
It was requested I not do that this way.
Oh, why?
Okay. Does anybody want to pull anything off the consent agenda?
No.
Okay.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second the motion on that.
DeCoste, yes?
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
10.1, motion's carried. Some people just got some new jobs too. On to
Congratulations.
Congratulations. 10.1, governing board member summary of current events.
A lot of sports.
Can't believe we're there already. Are you going first?
That's all I had to say.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of sports, football games, volleyball games, been going to fundraising tournaments. I appreciate the invite for the Agua Fria Foundation, as well as helping out the Verado golf teams with some fundraising opportunities, and just trying to be out there as much as possible. I've kind of like, even though I'm a new guy, I show up on a campus now and it's, oh, hi, Trey. I kind of, that makes me feel a little more, established than, just being the new guy. So.
You know what, I
appreciate
also want to thank you. You've taken it upon yourself to go to a few events to speak on behalf of our district for our bond, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Trey. Last time we met, I was at the ASBA Law Conference, so there's that. Same couple of football games, Desert Edge's homecoming, Verado High School's homecoming, Agua Fria's is this Friday, so looking forward to that. They've been a lot of fun. I love how our principals are showcasing our schools, and I just love seeing all of the kids. Thank you for everyone who presented tonight for all of the updates, and for anyone in the audience for your patience during executive sessions. Some of those we have to do in the beginning because we have attorneys that have other things to do, so we try to get them out of the way. Otherwise, you'll see we have one at the end that we do for the convenience of the audience. And just thank you for being proactive. Thank you, Quay, for budgeting and making it possible for us to be competitive in our pay with our staff, because it's tough out there and it's hard, and our kids need people in the classrooms and in the schools and on the buses and in the cafeterias and everywhere. So I'm glad that we're able to be competitive in the public education market. So just really appreciate all the work everyone's doing.
I think that I see most of my fellow board members at the various events. One thing I do want to bring up that came out of the law conference, I believe that previously we had a request to have a tax on soft projects. Well, what I learned at the law conference is that has been a lawsuit that's been in against the state from educational institutions for 4 years. It is now coming to a head, and what the lawsuit said, it is the state's responsibility to provide educational institutions so that you have an equalization across the state. State was saying, oh, no, we don't. Let's let the local people pay a tax and do it themselves. So I find it very interesting. We voted no. We did not want that tax. And I think it was to our advantage because that whole opportunity is coming to a head in the court, and it's been there about 4 years. So when we go to the law conferences, you do really find some fascinating things. And I'm glad we voted no for that. Let the state have the responsibility for building buildings and what have you for all of the students in the state. Thank you.
I would just like to take a moment to congratulate Mr. Nallen on his new position, and I know the blood, sweat, and tears that went into building Canyon View, and my own child goes there, so I'm a little sad to see you go, as I saw you leave Verado as well, but super excited for Miss Reed, so congratulations to Miss Reed as well. Okay, on to 10.2. Comments and or information from the superintendent and or cabinet.
Thank you, President Landis, members of the governing board. I too want to congratulate Mr. Philip Nolan for being our first deputy superintendent of academics. As has been said, he's done an amazing job as an employee of our district in many capacities, particularly this last one being at Canyon View. So, Philip, congratulations. Thank you for joining the team. And consequently, as we pulled Philip from Canyon View, we were very lucky to have somebody there that was already working very hard and was part of that Canyon View team. So congratulations and thank you, Lynn, for taking on this challenge and being the interim principal at Canyon View. Mr. Huffman and his in his department and Mr. Nolan will be working on a permanent replacement for Canyon View later on, as that might involve Ms. Reed as well. So we will bring that to you later. Mr. Huffman also has an introduction to make because you approved somebody that's coming from operations. Mr. Huffman.
Yeah, thank you. With your consent agenda approval this evening, you also approved Mr. Robert Zamora to be our first ever district director of safety and security, position that many of us have seen a need for quite some time. We're very happy to have Mr. Zamora come to us. He's been a school board member in a couple districts. He has a background in law enforcement. He has degrees in the area that directly affect school safety. And he has worked in the area of school safety for numerous years, most recently in the Phoenix Union School District, where he's coming to us from. So welcome. Robert Zamora.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any requests for future agenda items?
None.
None.
No.
No.
Okay. Be it resolved, the governing board convene an executive session as presented.
I second. DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Carrie, yes.
Acton, yes.
All right, let's go. Be it resolved, the governing board adjourns the executive session and returns to the regular board meeting.
Second,
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Be it resolved, the governing board adopts the superintendent's goals for the 2021-2022 contract year as presented.
A second. DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Be it resolved, the governing board adjourn the regular board meeting of October 13th, 2021.
Second,
DeCoste, yes.
Hill, yes.
Landis, yes.
Terry, yes.
Acton, yes.
Are you able to keep up?